I'm supporting Marcus Books today. I'm supporting Encantada Gallery and the mission. I'm supporting no more urban deportation. They're pushing us out of this city. We're trying to preserve this building for history. It's not just a building, it's our community center. It's the oldest black bookstore in the nation.
Whether in high school, college, city college, university, you went to Marcus Books not just to get a book, but to talk to Julian Richardson and find out who you were and what you were really supposed to be about as a black person. The Johnsons are not saying, hey, save poor me. The Johnsons are saying that there's a community that needs to be liberated out of the hands of some greedy investors. I've changed their name from the Swipes, what is the name? Swice to the Swipesters. Can we say that? Swipesters. They partner up with the banks. This is not some gentle family trying to integrate into the community. They're taking advantage of what the banks have done to this community, the bookstore. It's the intellectual mecca of our city. If you want to know about something, you go get a book. If you want to meet intellectual minds, you go to the Marcus Bookstore, and you will find the vanguard thinkers from the black community that are setting the tone and the pace about what the black movement is all about. You know, I think about this building and I go back when I was a young man and I was learning how to play my instrument. You had to have somewhere where you could jam. That was Bob City. 2 to 6 in the morning, you could go down there. But the beauty of it is that over the years, the dignitaries that would be in that building, and if you go down there, you can still feel the spirit of the great Duke Ellington. You can feel the spirit of Charles Yardbird Parker. You can feel the spirit of John Will.I.am Coltrane. So this is a building that's important to us, not just as a symbol, but something to encourage us to continue to fight for a place for black people in this town. Let's face it, they haven't been very friendly to us. If foreclosure is leading the exodus of black people from this community and we've stood silent, then we are prime partners with those that have assaulted this community.
My name is Jasmine Johnson. I am the daughter of Karen and Greg and the granddaughter, obviously, of Ray and Julian Richardson.
Dr. Johnson.
I'm also a professor of African American Studies at Northwestern University. My classroom began in the bookstore. My crib was in the bookstore behind the counter. That is home. I think that the community feels that way. The community grew up at Marcus Books. Part of what my research is actually is about Black San Francisco. It's about Black out-migration. My grandparents met in Tuskegee. My grandmother was 16 years old. And in a moment where Black folks were encouraged to do vocational work, they both had a very, very deep commitment to Black text, to Black authorship, to curating conversations around Black politics. My grandfather came here to start the first Black newspaper in San Francisco. Somebody had beat him to the punch. So instead he decided to rescue books that had gone out of print, texts that he knew were essential to Black history, to Black politics and culture, to bring them back into print, to sell those to folks. We have to take it off the steps from here.
You guys can go on the bottom.
So they came to San Francisco. They republished books. People kept borrowing those books. They didn't return them. They knew that people were hungry for the information. People were hungry for the material. And they started Marcus Books in 1960, which has been part of the Black literary world since its inception. Everyone who loves books, who authors books, celebrities in general, have been to Marcus Books.
Oh, come on.
We're going to take it off the steps. We're going to take it off the steps, but as we're transitioning, I just want to say Marcus Books is church, it's home, it's gospel for a lot of people, and we need to understand that the very reason why they started the bookstore is the same reason we are here today. That has not changed. It's to protect the African American community in the city. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. We're going to transition down and keep it going.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Jasmine. Before we go down, I just want to make a comment. I've worked for City and County for 35 years. I've never seen too many people asked to go to the bottom of the stairs. And so since we're making history, and this is a pivotal moment, we acknowledge the request of the good, shall we say, policymakers, and we recognize the importance of what they say. But nevertheless, we're here for justice. What we have seen and endured is injustice. So I want to put it just like that and keep it like that, but we will do as we were asked to do because we're nonviolent. We're only here for justice.
That's right.
Okay.
It kind of speaks to us in a way symbolically about moving us out of the city. They don't even want us on the steps of City Hall.
I was the third poet laureate of San Francisco. I became that because of Marcus Books. I have lived in San Francisco since I was 2 years old. My father, who is a writer, took me there when I was a little girl. I grew up because of Marcus Books, because of Julian Richardson, because of Ray Richardson. This bookstore is culturally so much to me. And as for Jimbo's, I can't tell you the stories my parents told me about that. We are losing our institutions. Without the information about the history and the cultural and the spirituality of African peoples, we are all less rich. Right. Nothing does what Marcus Books does. And it is not just saving a bookstore. It is saving an institution that serves the city. It is saving history.
I'm also a 30-year member of the community. My children learned to read at Marcus Books. I see many of our neighbors here who were privileged to go to Marcus Books. Marcus Books will survive. It has survived for the last 50 years. When redevelopment came and did its shameful thing and wiped out the community and tore down the houses and shoved out the poor people, Marcus Books survived. In the 80s and the 90s, when gentrification even happened greater, Marcus Books survived. There was an economic downturn. We all suffered because of it. We are richer. We are better. We are more united about Marcus Books. All of my neighbors in the community that I see here will be there to support it. We will keep Marcus Books alive.
I'm here to support this very courageous, wonderful family, the Johnson. What's happening here is happening all over the city. Chicago Barbershop is gone. The Monte Carlo Club is about to leave Bayview. This is part of what they call the Matrix that was set up, I'm going to say it, by ex-the Mayor Willie Brown that he called the Negro removal. When he said, when he stepped into office, I don't think that gentrification is a bad thing. And we laughed and said, oh, that's cute. It's happening now. We're going to be here all the way for this family and for all the people who have been fighting to stay in San Francisco.
When family needs help, there's a groundswell of support, and Marcus Bookstore is a historic institution, and we must fight for its historic preservation, and we have to fight by any means necessary.
This is also an issue between the rich and the poor.
It's really clearly the transfer of wealth from the hands of people who don't have much wealth into the hands of people who are already wealthy. As poor folk, we've always talked about a redistribution of wealth. Well, the redistribution of wealth is happening, it's just going in the wrong way. It really started with urban areas with issues like the redevelopment agency, which took the wealth out of the hands of many black and other poor people and put it in the hands of the wealthy. You had wealth on Fillmore Street, and you still have wealth on Fillmore Street. The only difference is who owns it. The only wealth that the average family ever owns is the home. What's happening with Marcus Books is a transfer of wealth out of the hands of working class black folk into the hands of others who ain't like this.
That ain't right.